What's going on, guys? Welcome back to UnOrdinary review and discussion. Now, as you can tell by the camera angle and the camera quality, we are unfortunately still kind of stuck with this scenario. Computer is going to be a little more tricky than I thought. So, nonetheless, I still wanted to record these reactions, these review and discussions for you guys. So yeah, we are going to start off this time with episode 271. And it was a really good chapter. It was yet another really good chapter that Uru delivered for us, and I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with the results that we got and everything. So yeah, let's go ahead and just jump right into this. So Chapter 271 immediately starts off with John versus William. That's definitely where a majority of this chapter takes place, and honestly, I'm glad that it did. I'm glad that Uru showed us this fight because it's something that I think a lot of us, myself included, definitely have been wanting to see for a long time. Like, what is William capable of? What can William do? Since we know he was the one who taught John how to fight, he's probably the person who exercises actually the most in the world of UnOrdinary. So episode kicks off with Sarah just noting how exciting it's going to be to, well, the episode doesn't necessarily kick off there, but Sarah, at the beginning, Sarah notes that this is going to be exciting to watch. The chapter actually starts off with William specifically calling it a friendly match, and John nods in agreement. I really like this detail, and it shines much later in the rest of the chapter too. This just goes to show that John doesn't necessarily worry about losing control when he's up against his dad. It just kind of shows like John knows it's a friendly match. It's just John acknowledging like, yeah, this is just practice, no worries. As the fight begins, he even mentions though that his dad might be older, but his dad is still hard to pin down, recalling sometimes that the last times they fought. So the fight itself is actually fairly even, though I do believe that William holds the advantage for a majority of the duration of the fight. The two clash a lot and both get a lot of really good hits in, and it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see just a bare bones hand-to-hand fight, which might be an actual first in UnOrdinary, even though it's a sparring match, nothing else. But it does also just go to show that William does have that experience that was needed in order to be able to teach John about fighting without an ability back when John was growing up as a cripple. So William also does a bit of taunting throughout the fight, basically saying like, John, you're slow. Like, oh, John, come on, you got to try better than that. And honestly, again, I just loved this. Anyone else who would have done that to John, anyone else who would have mocked John like that or taunted him like that, even the slightest, John would have been furious. John would have gotten so angry. But he doesn't. He just laughs it off and tells his dad that he's not done yet. And I love that. I just love that it shows how much John actually loves and feels safe with his dad around. And yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to see. So William does basically win the fight. John gets knocked to the floor last, and he's kind of like laying down a bit, but John just brushes off the loss. He gets back up and just says like, man, I'm so rusty. And this is the first time we've seen John take a loss. And actually, well, no, we saw John lose at New Boston, but this is the first time we've seen John kind of like this calm after a fight. And again, it was with his dad, which just made it so much better in my opinion. While watching the fight, though, Sarah does actually notice and bring up to herself that something's been different about John, stating that since he came back to the school after losing his ability, he seemed broken and unsure of what to do with himself. But while training with his dad, he looks alive again. And then when practicing with William after the fight after his match against John, she sees John going at it at one of the punching bags, and he's really into it. He's really feeling himself. And it's a lot healthier, I'll say, than when we saw him at his apartment on the training bags, because when there he was really just complete anger and everything, but this time he was focused and determined. And yeah, Sarah herself even says that she hasn't seen him focus like this in a while, and she also says to herself, it's good to have you back. And it is so good to have John back, or to get, well, not completely back, not to leave him back, but it's nice to see like, him coming back to coming back to his own groove. It's nice to see. So once again, after that, William begins to head out, basically saying like, hey, like, I gotta head out, I gotta clean up my face before the morning because he's got a bit of bruises on him. So begins to head out, and Sarah asks if he can stay any longer, but he says he has to make a couple stops in the coming weeks and his schedule is tight. Now, we were discussing this in the comments because we know what William is having looked into with Jane. So we're speculating that maybe his stops that he has to make have to do with trying to locate and track down Jane. And honestly, I can completely see that being a thing. Who knows? I believe the guy's name is Simon he's talking to. I could see, like, him and Simon working together. I would like to see, some William chapters. That'd be really cool. But yeah, I think William, that might be his schedule, trying to find Jane. But after that, it does seem like William does plan on stopping back for another visit again, because he does say, like, I'm gonna make it up to you guys next time. So, well, I think we'll at least try to see William in Wellston again. So, next up, after that, John then just tells his dad, like, hey, Dad, don't work too hard. And beating it like a dead horse, I know, but I just love that even though, like, his dad embarrasses him sometimes, John just knows that his dad loves him and his dad's got his back. And yeah, it's nice to see, like, John's being like, Dad, like, hey, like, thanks for coming by, like, take care of yourself. William then actually takes John aside and he tells John that, like, at the cafe with after Remy, Blake, and Ison left, tells John that John's come a long way and that John should be proud of himself. William then also does something that I was not expecting at all this episode. He tells John to treasure his ability because it's a gift from John's mom. I think it's safe to assume Uru kind of confirming that Channel Master is indeed a higher variant of aura manipulation. So I think it's definitely possible that John could unlock Channel Master if he gets to at least level 9, I will say, for now. So, yeah, honestly, it's really cool. So, it's really cool to see that. John actually then asks William why he's bringing up her at all, saying that he's never really done so. So, yeah, it's kind of this was something I really wanted to bring up a while ago, where I said I didn't want John's reaction to his mom being like, I've always been curious about where my mom is, or my mom's really big important to me. It seemed like soft confirmation to me that to John it's just like, oh yeah, my mom's not really a part of my life. I didn't really know her. So it seems kind of like that's the route Uru's going to go, which I'm glad. But I definitely do think it's possible that as John learns more about his mom's situation, that he will definitely want to get involved with rescuing her and getting her away from the authorities. So, William also mentions that, but William then retorts that she hasn't been a part of John's life. So I think it is safe to assume that she either left or was taken by the authorities when John was just a baby. Actually, I really want to see that. Uru, Baby John, give us all the main casters as kids. Anyway, William basically confirms that she wasn't really part of his life, but he brushes it off, saying that he must have just been thinking of her lately, which again goes back to the theory of us thinking that the stops and the visits, the trips that William has coming up have to do with trying to locate and bring back Jane, get her away from the authorities. So, yeah, there is that. So, now, that's about it. William just brings everyone together for a group hug, and then he heads out. But something I want to bring up real quick, a lot of people pointed out that as William is leaving, we get another shot of John and Sarah watching him leave. And was John smiling, or was John just watching his dad head out? Yeah, John's got a bit of a slight smile too. So yeah, John and Sarah are just both watching William head out, just, smiling a little bit. But some people pointed out that this is the first time in a long while where we've seen one of Sarah's sleeves from her jacket or coat hanging off of her shoulder. And after a bit of digging, I'm gonna be honest. If I say this now, but someone's gonna point out in the comments. Actually, no, she's been doing this fairly regularly. I'm gonna look like an idiot, but I did some digging, and I'm pretty sure they were right. We haven't seen Sarah like this, just relaxed, her normal self, like how she usually wears her clothes, in quite a long time too, just like with John. So it's a nice touch. It's a nice, artistic decision from Uru and the team to just, like in the very chapter that Sarah herself retorts that, like, hey, it's good to see that John's back to himself, to being himself and getting himself back, that we as the audience get to notice that about Sarah, that like, oh, hey, Sarah's starting to come back to her being her old self too. Like, it's really cool to see. So yeah, Uru, very nice touch there. Now, the chapter ends with Spectre Agents on top of the Loven prison roof. And we know what they're for. I know what they do now, but I won't say that in this video. But we know what they're there for. And the chapter just ends with just a moment of, oh, fuck, what's going to happen next? Because this is a prison. This is I would assume, a high security facility, and the likes of which Keon is currently present at. And also, I just realized now, Loven Prison is this is going to sound really stupid when I say it out loud. Loven Prison has to be different from the readjustment facility where John was at. So I just had the thought of maybe that this is where John spent some of his time, but no, it's definitely not. John was located at a readjustment facility, and now that I think about it, because we know that from Wellston to New Boston, it's at least a plane ride, and that's a fair amount of distance to cover, no matter how long or short it may be. So Keon may actually be a fairly high-ranking member of the authorities for the country that UnOrdinary takes place in, or, the state or whatever. Uru has confirmed that UnOrdinary doesn't take place in a futuristic America, despite, a lot of the names being based on American cities and everything. So yeah, I'm realizing now that just how high Keon must be in order to do all these traveling for all these different types of criminals, or like, troublemakers at all these different locations. Huh. It's interesting. It's interesting to see. Just now realizing that. Anyway, like I said, how is Spectre going to pull this off? Like, what is really their plan? There's two agents. So one with green eyes and like they're basically suits, the Black Panther-esque suits that I mentioned with Sarah from her trip to Next Gen. So yeah, there's two of them. So a guy with green eyes and then a girl with reddish eyes, and her suit color is kind of like an orange. So yeah, episode 272 definitely delivers on what we wanted to see after the cliffhanger of 271. So with that being said, guys, honestly, I'm going to give this episode a level 9. Level 9.1, the Jane Doe, give them the Jane Doe boys. Next, actually, no, that's not really fair. I'll give this episode an 8.5, actually. It's a really good episode. It is a very good episode. And it's just nice, some action, some bits with William. Everyone in the UnOrdinary community loves William. Not a single person who doesn't. And if they don't exist. They're not a fan of UnOrdinary. They're a fake fan. That's the review and discussion for 271, though, guys. I hope you look forward to episode 272 review and discussion, which I am actually recording right after this. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and see you, Space Cowboy.